Hold up. Wait a minute.
This is Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm always shooting straight from the hip.
Let's take a trip around the curve. Hi, everybody. It's your girl, Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic, and I am back. Turn that light down a little bit because I was like, light. Anyway, hi, welcome back to another live episode of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. I have so much for you. I know I haven't been here for a couple of weeks, but there is good reason why. I was in New York City, and while I was there, I stopped by the Museum of Broadway. You know how much I love Broadway. It was a wonderful museum. If you're ever in New York City, check it out. And then I was there for the New York Film Festival, so I got a chance to finally see Amelia Perez and took a picture with Amelia herself, my namesake, Carla Sofia Gascon, and I got to talk with the director, Jacques Audiard. So yes, I was in New York for the New York Film Festival. I also got a chance to see Maria. I attended a press conference centered around that film. And then a while ago, I participated in this. My friend, Tre'vell Anderson, has a salon series that is online. And what he does is he's hearkening back to the days of the Harlem Renaissance and getting people together to discuss films, music, art, all kinds of things like they used to do back in the day. So he's doing it here in Los Angeles. Pictured, some of Tre'vell is in the middle of the picture in like the tan jumpsuit, and Joelle is with the glasses and the fro, and Lanisa Frederick is over to the far left on the right, and then you see me there with the glasses on in like the orangish and black. But if you want more information on that, go to Tre'vell Anderson's page. I will put his Instagram handle up by the time we finish the show so that you will know what is going on there. Also, I did another screening, this time the rap and one of the studios that produces the Nickel Boys. The band got back together again, and I did another Q&A last night for the rap screening. So if you would like to see that Q&A, go to hashtag rap screenings and you'll be able to find it there. Then while I was in New York, I had an opportunity to catch up on some reviews and a couple of films. One of the films is Apartment 7A. It's now streaming on Paramount Plus. It's directed by Natalie Erica James for Paramount Pictures, and it stars Diane Wiest and Julia Garner. Now, the gist of this film is Terry Gianafrio dreams of fame and fortune in New York City, but after suffering an injury, an older, wealthy couple welcome her into their home in the Branford, which is like a really wonderful, nice apartment building located in the 60s of New York. When she receives an offer at another chance at fame from famed choreographer director James Marchand, it seems like all her dreams are coming true, right? But some disturbing circumstances soon have her second guessing the sacrifices she's willing to make for her career, and she realizes that something evil is living not only in apartment 7A, but in the Branford itself. Baby, when I tell you, I was kind of, I always say this all the time, and then I end up contradicting myself, but I kind of dig the I love thrillers. I love horror movies that are more on the thriller side than the horror side. And this is a prequel to a 1968 film called Rosemary's Baby, based on a book by the same name. Who wrote that book? I thought I wrote that down. Yeah, Ira Levin wrote the book in 1967, and the movie was in theaters in 1968. The movie that I'm speaking of is Rosemary's Baby, and it starred Ruth Gordon, John Cassavetes, Mia Farrow, and Sidney Blacker. is it Blacker? Yeah, Sydney Blacker. And Ruth Gordon was won the Best Supporting Actress award for her performance in it. She was freaking hilarious. If you have not seen Rosemary's Baby, I highly suggest watching Rosemary's Baby, which is streaming on the Paramount Plus channel along with Apartment 7A before you see Apartment 7A, because Rosemary's Baby is Apartment 7A is the prequel to Rosemary's Baby, so it'll all make sense to you. Julia Garner is slaying as Terry. And what I really love about her and Diane Wiest are actually spectacular. Diane Wiest has jumped into the Ruth Gordon shoes, and Julia has jumped into Mia Farrow's shoes, and both of them do an exemplary job. I love the whole dancer background for this version of it, because in the other version, we didn't really know what Mia Farrow's character did other than be Guy Woodhouse, who was her husband, other than being his wife. We didn't really know what she did beforehand. So now we have a little bit of a backstory, the fact that she was a dancer. I kind of love that. And it showed how desperate artists are to get a break or to become a star. And I enjoyed that aspect of the story. And in Rosemary's Baby, that really short haircut became infamous. All the girls of that time in the 60s had that little short cropped haircut, which was made popular again through Halle Berry. So there's that. Anywho, um, I was engaged, honestly, to see how it's all was going to play out, to see what this prequel was going to be like, because I didn't know it was a prequel at first. I thought it was a follow-up or a remake, but then I later found out that it was a prequel, and I was pleasantly surprised, I have to say. It didn't get great reviews, but I kind of dug it. I was engaged to see how it was all going to play out. And I think it's a great screen for the month of October, in line with the whole Halloween theme. So I highly suggest that you check it out if you get an opportunity. I also moderated a press conference for Netflix for Will and Harper. Now, I've spoken about Will and Harper here before, and I'll just give you a brief rundown of Will and Harper again right now. So, Will and Harper is directed by Josh Greenbaum, and when Will finds out that his close friend of 30 years, Harper Steele, is coming out as a trans woman, the two decide to embark on a cross-country road trip to process this new stage in their relationship and an intimate portrait of friendship and transition. Now, I saw this film at Sundance. And quick story. So I was on my way to the Sundance Film Festival earlier this year, and I heard somebody go, Carla, and I turned around, and it was Josh Greenbaum. Josh Greenbaum and I know each other because he had produced, written, and directed a pilot about TSA workers, kind of in the same lane as like The Office and Superstore. It was sold to CBS. CBS sat on it, never did anything with it, and it's never seen the light of day, except for the few pictures we posted online every once in a while. But I ran into Josh on the plane and told him that Will and Harper was a hot ticket at Sundance, and I could barely get a ticket to go see it. So he graciously invited me to the premiere, and I had a great time. Having said that, Harper is a former SNL writer, which is how Will and Harper met in the first place, right? And once she became trans, I mentioned in the intro that she wanted to go on a cross country road trip, because she used to do this all the time. She used to drive across the country when she was a man, drive across the country and drink crappy beer and go into dive bars and just live her best life. But now she's trans, and that comes with a whole different set of circumstances and people that aren't as open-minded about that section of society. So Will suggested that they go on this road trip, and the road trip is going swimmingly until they get to this Texas diner where there's a contest to see who can eat the most steaks, and then I think you win a prize. I forget what the prize is. But while they were in that restaurant, it was like they were in a fishbowl. It was like everyone in the restaurant stopped eating, stopped talking, stopped doing everything to pay attention to what was going on with them. And then the next day, Twitter was ablaze with, not so nice comments for Will, not so nice comments for Harper. And just, I mean, they're in Texas. Need I say more? But what I loved about that moment was Will realized in that moment that he actually was putting his friend in danger. He didn't realize how big of a stigma there was toward the trans community until they had taken that trip and went into that diner. And all I need to say is, baby, everybody needs a friend like Will Ferrell. He has stood by Harper Steele through thick and thin and through the worst of it. And I can't think of a better documentary to recommend for people to see than Will and Harper, which has been streaming on Netflix since September 27th. Check it out if you have an opportunity. Going back to what going back to Paramount Plus, there's a film streaming over there called Hold Your Breath. And it's a crazy little film. It is dealing with what it's not on Paramount Plus. I'm sorry, my bad. It's on Hulu. Oops. Sorry. It's on Hulu. It's directed by Carrie Krause for Searchlight Pictures, which is part of the Disney Hulu franchise. And it's starring Sarah Paulson, Amish Miller, Alana Jane Robbins, and Annalee Ashford and Elon Moss Bacharach. And it takes place in 1930s Oklahoma. During the dust storms. During that time in Oklahoma, there were terrible, terrible, terrible dust storms, and people couldn't breathe, and it wasn't raining, and people's crops were being destroyed. Folks, it was kind of like it was the Depression, so to speak, before the Depression really hit. But this woman, played by Sarah Paulson, has convinced her family that there is a sinister presence threatening her family and that they can't go outside. If that sounds familiar, it's kind of sort of close to the premise of the Halle Berry film Never Let Go, where her kids can't go outside either. Different circumstances, different family, whole different movie. But when I watched it, I thought, oh, this is very similar to Never Let Go. I'm not gonna lie, this film is a slow burn. It is a slow burn, but what makes it worth watching are the performances by Sarah Paulson and the kids. Amish Miller and Alana Jane Robbins are freaking killing it. And Annalee Ashford, who comes from the musical theater world, and just did a whole run revival of Sweeney Todd, is crushing it. So if you want to see some really great performances, again, in line with the whole October theme situation, check it out. Lonely Planet. I'm gonna flip back over to Netflix real quick. Lonely Planet is a film that is streaming on Netflix, and it stars Laura Dern and Liam Hemsworth with his cutie pie self. Laura plays Catherine Lowe, who is this really popular novelist who's on deadline and having a little bit of writer's block. And she goes to Morocco to try to unblock her writer's block and get her novel finished in peace and quiet when she runs into Liam Hemsworth, who plays Owen. And they're at this retreat in Morocco. And the newly single novelist, because Laura's character was involved with somebody, now she's single, she's not distracted, she's in Morocco, she wants to finish this book. She finds an unexpected connection with this younger man, played by Liam, who's reevaluating his life choices. Now, the reason he's reevaluating his life choices is because he has a girlfriend who is also a writer, but she invites him on this retreat with her, but she kind of ignores him the whole time, and she kind of embarrasses him and makes him feel less than. And it's just not lovely the way she treats him. And then fast forward, he gets attracted to Catherine, and then something similar happens with Catherine. I don't want to say what, but I think this is a really great romantic movie that's a huge travel ad for Morocco. So if you've never been to Morocco, this will make you want to go. And it's giving you Eat, Pray, Love meets Pretty Woman vibes. I'm just saying, it's giving you the whole Eat, Pray, Love thing. And it also brings home the message of love can be found in the unlikeliest places, and especially when you are not looking for it, when you are minding your business and not thinking about being with a man or a woman. Love somehow finds you and makes your life a little more interesting. And it also brings home the message of don't settle. Don't settle with somebody that doesn't bring you joy and doesn't make you happy and doesn't enhance your life or your spirit. And those things I love about this movie. But I did get a chance to talk to Laura and Liam about the film. And before I play that interview for you, let's check the messages. Hey, Sav Productions, how you doing, baby? Good to see you. And I know that Brandon and other people will watch it later, so there's that. But let me go ahead and play this interview for y'all with Laura Dern and Liam Hemsworth talking about Lonely Planet. Hi, y'all.
Hey, it's so great to see you.
It's so great to see you. You know how much I love you. And I'm sure I'm going to love you too.
Yes,
Love
Not
you
to leave you out.
You are, and you will love her so
Love.
much.
So when I watched Lonely Planet, I was like, this is like Eat, Pray, Love meets kind of Pretty Woman in a really weird kind of way. I was kind of digging it. I really was. But one of the things that struck me was, I think your character talks about a swing group and let me see, what was it? Finding hope in a big mess. Have y'all ever been in a situation where you found hope in a really big mess?
Yep.
Yeah.
You're like,
I'd like to hope that that I find something good out of terrible things happening
Yeah.
and learn something from those situations.
She's like, yeah, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. So I also love that y'all shot this in Morocco, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the most memorable thing you have about shooting it in Morocco, and what was the most fascinating thing?
I mean, for me, having Liam to look at every time I had a feeling about Morocco, every experience, awe-inspiring, vulnerable making, you name it, and, radical travel and filming in new and wild and exotic places, not to quote the movie. When you're with a partner through it, you're both feeling and seeing the same things. It's an amazing journey. I don't know that I would have ever had the experience I was privileged to have without him.
I feel the same way. It was a exciting place to shoot in. We shot in so many different spots around Morocco. We started in Marrakesh and then went to Atlas Mountains and then went to Chefchaouen, which is incredible. That's that blue city.
Essaouira,
Essaouira,
which is a big surf.
That was the beach place. Yeah. We missed the surf though. I was
know.
hoping to get. I said one of the best surf breaks in the world is in Morocco, and but it was the wrong time of year, I think, when we were there, so we missed out. But yeah, being able to go to all those different places and shoot these scenes with Laura was really, really fun, and we had a great time.
Cool.
Great time.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that you were a cougar. I kind of got my entire life with you having this younger beau happening. I was wondering for you, how do you feel about the older woman, younger man dynamic? Because it's fabulous to watch that, because we see the opposite all the time. We always see older men with younger women all the time.
For sure. To tell a story about two people finding both themselves through each other, self-discovery in this love story, but also a deeper sense of being seen in a judgment-free way and waking up to yourself and what love can offer. And there's no story point that connects to the age difference. It's just a love story.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the two people that find connection and are the most similar of this group of people, perhaps in a lifetime of looking. And that was so refreshing, so that I think her intent is, to really smack down, years probably for her as a writer of writing stories for men's self-discovery, where it's never mentioned when a woman is cast that's younger. It's just a love story.
Mm-hmm.
And may we do that more in this way. Because we have had, films where the entire focus of the film is about an age difference. So I found this moving and refreshing, because you don't know where you're going to not only discover deep love and trust and sort of faith in love, but a real sense of your own identity.
I love that. And let me just say, for you, Liam, I felt bad that you had all these sisters that were kicking you around, and then you end up with these two women kicking you around in the movie. I was like, I'm gonna need Owen to get some love somewhere where somebody ain't throwing him under the bus. But that's my time, y'all. I had to say that before I ended. I appreciate you. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to meet
It's
you.
so good
Lovely
to
to meet
see
you.
you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
Can I just tell y'all, I love me some Laura Dern. I've interviewed her numerous times now, and she is one of the most gracious, lovely, wonderfully warm people I have ever met. I love her to death. And Liam ain't too hard to look at either. Let's just say a couple of things real quick. Hey, Brandon, how are you? Good to see you. And what are you telling me? I'm possibly seeing the new My Hero Academia movie on Friday, and I want to see Venom 3 Piece by Piece and Moana 2. I can help you out on Piece by Piece and Moana 2, brother, but I'm not going to be seeing Venom 3. And I might be seeing My Hero Academia, though. What else did you say? You said also the Transformers 1 and Wild Bro. Yes, didn't I tell you? I told you they were good. And you said, even Wild Robot, I do hope. Oh, Wild Robot's going to win some awards. Trust and believe. We'll get into the awards conversation probably next week. I'll start giving, my opinions about what I think is going to show up and what I think isn't going to show up, because it's about that time. And I've seen mostly everything. So there's that. But yeah, so Lonely Planet is going to be on Netflix beginning October 11th, which is later on this week. So please do yourselves a favor and check that out. Also check out Hold Your Breath, which is now streaming on Hulu, and Apartment 7A, which is on Paramount Plus, and Will and Harper, which is on Netflix. So having said all of that, let's get into let's see, what do I want to talk about next? Oh, let's get into the Outrun. There's this other actress that I love. I have yet to interview her, but I love her to death. Her name is Saoirse Ronan. And Saoirse is a beast. A lot of people remember her from Greta Gerwig's, one of Greta Gerwig's first films. And I think Saoirse got nominated for an Oscar for that. But now she's in this film, which has been in theaters since October 4th. It's called The Outrun. And it deals with this young lady who her name is Rona, and she's been living her life on the edge in London. And finally, she attempts to come to terms with her troubled past by returning to the wild, beautiful Scotland, Orkney Islands, where she grew up, hoping to heal herself from the inside out. Now, this is the thing about this movie. It's a film about addiction. It's a film particularly dealing with alcohol addiction. And we don't see these types of films that often from a woman's point of view. Like, we've seen it. There's an old film called The Lost Weekend with Ray Milland that dealt with somebody who was on a binge and trying to find his way back. We've also seen women do it with 28 Days with Sandra Bullock back in 2006. We saw Angelina Jolie dealing with addiction alongside Winona Ryder in 1999's Girl Interrupted. We saw Anne Hathaway dealing with some issues in Rachel Getting Married, and oh God, what's the child's name? Meg Ryan dealing with alcohol addiction and When a Man Loves a Woman. And of course, in both versions of A Star is Born, the lead character, played respectively by the late Chris Christopherson and Bradley Cooper, both had alcohol addiction. So having said that, this film zeroes in on the fact that the past follows you everywhere. You can't drink your way away from the past. You can't shoot up your way away from the past. Your past and your life is going to follow you everywhere you go, because it's your past and it's your life and it's your trajectory that you have built. I loved the lesson of that. It's a tour de force performance by Saoirse Ronan, because it mostly focuses on her. She's the main person that you're going to see 3/4 of the film, and she is holding it down with every inch of her life. Nora Fingscheid's direction of this is absolutely astounding. I loved it. The way she shoots everything, the composition, everything it was really lovely. It also illustrates the fact that Rona is trying to orchestrate the waves in the ocean the same way she wishes that she could orchestrate her life. So I kind of loved watching all of that. It was really spectacular to watch. Again, this film is called The Outrun. It has been in theaters since October 4th. and it stars this lovely young lady here, Saoirse Ronan. Okay, all right. Saturday night. I know y'all waiting to hear me talk about some Saturday night. Saturday Night Live. I love Saturday Night Live. It's one of my favorite escapes to go to help me forget about, how funky and weird life can be sometimes. And I just really enjoy it. And I'm actually getting to Saturday night in the broadcast now because I want to lighten it up. I've been talking about things so dark and sinister. So Saturday Night is directed by Jason Reitman for Sony Pictures. It's 90 minutes long, which I also love. And it's co-written by Gil Keenan and Reitman. It's dealing with Saturday Night's story of what happened behind the scenes in the 90 minutes leading up to the very first broadcast of Saturday Night Live. That's what the film is about. It's not a retrospective of Saturday Night Live. It's not giving you any of that. It's literally talking about the 90 minutes leading up to the first broadcast. You get to see how these iconic sketches like the Bee sketch or the Hard Hat sketch have been fleshed out and how they actually made it to air. You get to see who the musical guests were. You get to see who some of the guest stars were, like Andy Kaufman, where he does his whole lip sync to Mighty Mouse. And it was iconic. I have been lucky enough to be able to watch that in real time. And when I tell you, nothing like that had ever been on network television, and NBC was catching hell for it. But man, has it paid off, because 50 years later, it's still thriving. In that picture that I showed you, let me find it. The picture of the cast that I showed you in that photograph is, so a couple of years ago, I went and I did a play version of Designing Women. The young lady in the blonde to your right, if you're watching the screen, that is Kim Matula. She is a former soap opera star, but she's playing Jane Curtin in the Saturday Night movie, and I'm so proud of her. I also loved the fact that there's the guy is playing Andy Kaufman. I love that. Jim Henson, that was the first time we saw the Muppets on national TV, and that was a whole thing. You can see that when you watch the film. But Billy Preston is being featured in a scene. And I hate that Billy Preston isn't being served a little better in this film, because it's kind of like, they're like, yeah, and Billy Preston was one of the musical guests, but he was a musical guest, and they kind of gloss over it a little bit. But that scene really serves more as a jumping point off to show how Garrett Morris got hooked on drugs. Which brings me to the fact that Garrett Morris is being portrayed by Lamorne Morris, who just won an Emmy. Lamorne Morris is a beast. He is a secretly silent success. I heard somebody use that term recently, and I think that is the best way to describe Lamorne Morris in Saturday Night. I was not fortunate enough to talk to Lamorne, but we're friends, so I'll talk to him sooner or later. But I did talk to a couple of other kids, and I'm just going to play this interview for you. So take a look and a listen to this interview from a few of the cast members from the Saturday Night Flick. What's up, y'all? Dylan's like, oh, what's she about to say?
I'm immediately more comfortable.
With your character, Rachel, with Rosie, she wrote so many iconic skits for Saturday Night Live, but for all three of y'all in the process of, researching this film, what is one of the sketches? What is one of the sketches that you ran across that you're like, oh, I think that's my new favorite sketch?
Ooh.
I loved the home invasion sketch, which is in the first episode, and I had never seen before. And that was sort of like my first thing that I saw. It was like my audition scene and like my first time trying out my character, and I loved that sketch. I had never seen it.
I think the hard hat sketch for me, I was this is so, I feel like also you can really trace back comedy always, where you're like, this became this and then that and then that, and it feels like the beginning of, like, I think the women on the show, like, really were at the forefront of, like, women in comedy, and you can see it down, like, we were talking before, like, I grew up watching, like, Kristen Wiig and Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Maya Rudolph, but, like, that began in the first season.
It's not necessarily a sketch, but when Lily Tomlin hosted in the first episode, she has this monologue. It's like a one-woman play where she's playing this teenager in love at the school dance, talking to her best friend, and it's, like, so funny, but also really, like, emotional and moving as this character, and she's just showcasing herself as a performer. And I would love to see that more integrated in maybe today's episodes, because that was as they were finding the format of the show, and it seems like no one had any bad ideas, and they were just throwing that in there as an extra thing.
I know that all three of these people that you all are portraying, they're all still here, unlike some of the other characters, or some of the other people that are portraying folks in the film. Did you have an opportunity to connect with any of them, and what was the best advice they gave you for dumping into this world, because it's so freaking iconic?
Well, I got to talk to Rosie, which was amazing. We talked on the phone, and I'm really excited to meet her in person. I think just like hearing her voice and like the way she talked about like going into this, and it was like she's just so like the eye of the storm in this world. Like I feel like it's like everyone's freaking out. She's cool, she's smart, and like that was so helpful for me, like a way into the character where I was like, everyone's freaking out around you, and like someone throws something at you, you pivot or you move, and that was, it was super cool to talk to her.
Jason was like really funny in particular about me, like not maybe, but like he like kind of in a way that Dan is like sort of I guess supposed to float like through all of this chaos and be so kind of unaffected by it, and like he's like a visiting creature from another planet. You know what I mean?
I would say you navigated that very well.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Wait, what?
You're hilarious. How about you, my dear?
Lauren was very lovely and totally gave us his blessing to do this film. But Jason thought it was best that I just focus on who he was as a young man, and that I shouldn't intake any other energy or information other than that first opening night in the first year of its creation. And that's just what I focused on.
I think you all did a fantastic job. I've seen the film. I reviewed it for a trade, which we won't mention here, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed your performances, and the energy that y'all had to have to pull it off was awe-inspiring. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And thank you for giving me your time today. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
I really enjoyed the film, and mostly because it was nostalgic for me. It's very, very nostalgic for us Saturday night lifers that love the show. It's been a great year for animation so far. It definitely has. And yes, Sad Productions, they are talented young actors, and Saturday night is fun. It is a lot of fun. Please check it out. It will be hitting theaters, I believe, on October 11th. Yeah, October 11th. So check it out when you have an opportunity. All right, so I've talked to one Oscar-winning Cate this year, and I got an opportunity to speak to another Oscar-winning Cate Blanchett. Cate Blanchett has a movie out called Rumors, and it is crazy as hell. It deals with the world's, so it's a Bleecker Street Studios film. It's directed by Guy Madden, Evan Johnson, and Galen Johnson. It stars Cate Blanchett, as I said, and it centers around the leaders of the world's wealthiest democracies gather for this annual G7 summit to draft a provisional statement regarding a global crisis. They soon become spectacles of incompetence, contending with increasingly surreal obstacles as the night falls into the misty woods and they realize that they are suddenly alone. Here's a couple of things before I get into this interview. This film is crazy as hell, and you'll hear me say this in this interview numerous times. It is crazy as hell. It's a crazy sci-fi horror flick centered around the G7 summit. So if you don't know what the G7 summit is, this is what it is. It's a summit or a group of 7 intergovernmental political and economic forum entities that get together from Canada, France, Germany, the UK, Italy, Japan, and the US. And they get together and they decide economically, how they're all going to work together to make sure that the world is operating the way it needs to on an economic, global, and financial level. That's what the G7 summit is. Well, Guy, Evan, and Galen have taken that premise and put it into a horror film with a brain being like a version of AI. It's crazy, but it does. Dealing with AI, the way that they deal with it in this film is a very interesting concept. And it introduces this concept of bog bodies into the film. Now, if you're not familiar with what a bog is, because I wasn't, a bog body is a human cadaver that has been naturally mummified in a peat bag. And these bodies chronologically have been dated back to 8,000 BCE in the Second World War. There's a whole scene in the film that deals with this. And the whole reason why it deals with that is because what happens to these G7 summiters in the film, you're led to believe that that this is going to end up being their trajectory based on their behavior and their decisions. There is a light cameo by Oscar winner Alicia Vikander. And if nothing else, this film makes a super strong statement on how corrupt and idiotic some of these world leaders can be under the most insane and inane of circumstances. So without further ado, I'm gonna let Cate Blanchett. Child, I'm so excited because I didn't talk to two Kates. I'm like, so I talked to Cate Winslet. No, Cate Blanchett. But before I get into that, let's see what this next comment is. Do I still act? Will we see you in anything? I do still act. And I haven't done anything physically on camera in a while. I do a lot more voice acting these days than acting on camera, but I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed that that's gonna change because I have auditioned for a couple of things. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed to make sure that happens. And yeah, thank you for asking that. I do try to dabble in it from time to time, but it gets a bit tricky with the schedules and whatnot. All right, so without further ado, here is my interview with Cate Blanchett and one of her other co-stars for Rumors.
Hi, beautiful colors.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I've said this to everybody. Y'all know this film is crazy as hell, right?
Yeah.
We do now. Yeah.
It's crazy as hell. But what I want to know from you guys is, oftentimes you all are wandering through the woods in the dark as a unit or individually, but do Hilda and Silvio really have enough humanity to care about someone other than themselves, or are they just making an ego play to one up each other? And we'll let ladies go first.
Yeah, I think the G7 come together from such different cultures, and they all have agendas, and they set a theme every time they meet. And the fact that the theme of this year's summit in the film is regret, and yet their regrets are all so personal. And so they're all kind of narcissists of a sort. And so when you think that they're being pursued by bog monsters, you think they're going to eat each other. But they have to band together in a way, I think, that none of them expected, in a way that they don't as leaders of the free world.
Yeah.
So it's self-preservation.
They were not protesters.
No, they were not protesters, no. But there's a lot of sexual tension because the film called Rumors, strangely, after that Fleetwood Mac album, where they were bickering and fighting and sleeping together. And so there's a kind of a sense that if you look at it through the prism of the Fleetwood Mac album, then the film sort of strangely makes sense.
Oh, that's good intel. Denis, do you have anything to add to what Cate said?
Not really. No, but it is very interesting and hilarious that they are they've been elected to be leaders. They found those bug people who've been killed because they were bad leaders, and they have no sense of legacy or responsibility and no consequences to what they do. And I think that's really, really funny.
You know what I thought was fun was watching you in that wheelbarrow. That must have been the easiest acting gig you ever had in your life, being pushed around in a wheelbarrow.
It was one of them. It was harder for the people pushing me around, I must say.
But it was in your contract.
It wasn't.
It wasn't in the script. And then you said, I must be wheeled around in a wheelbarrow. I'm not walking around in the dark.
And they built so many other devices for me to be carried. And I had a body double that we call floppy,
Yeah.
so they can carry me.
So-
I wonder
so
where floppy is.
You should get floppy. Floppy should be in your contract. Yes, so sometimes we'd be all acting with floppy, and sometimes we'd be working with Denis.
And they will say like floppy's better actor than you. Haha.
That is hilarious. I love that you had a body
No,
double that has a nickname called Fluffy. That is pure comedy. So that is hilarious. So because there's a little bit of a hint of AI being talked about and being dealt with in this film, and because we are living that reality in real life in the industry, I'd love to know as actors what your thoughts are about AI, because we've seen cashiers get eliminated from parking garages and stores and whatnot. Do you think that replacing actors with AI, especially since actors like James Earl Jones, the late James Earl Jones, allowed his voice to be used, gave his permission for his voice to be used, after he's gone, for the Star Wars franchise? For that,
Right.
I think that's great to keep that franchise living, but I
Yes.
just wanted to know what you all's ideology on it was.
But it's interesting, the James Earl Jones example, the actor is in control of the use. And has authorized the use. I mean, a lot of things happen in the creative industries first, and I think it's really interesting coming out of the actors' strike last year, and the writers' strike, a lot of which was to do with the application of AI. Before that, the AI conversation was not in the mainstream, and it's not just going to affect us; it's going to affect everybody, as you say. And I don't know, maybe I'm a dying breed, but when I go to a supermarket, I want to check out with a human being. When I go to a hotel, I don't want to order on an iPad. I want to pick up the phone and speak to somebody.
Yeah.
And so it's a complicated issue that I don't think we're talking about enough. And I don't think corporations should be deciding that. I think government should. I think people should vote on this. It's like patenting the human genome. I mean, that shouldn't happen with a corporation because, it affects every single human being on the planet.
Denis, you have anything to add?
I'm more hopeful when it comes to creative arts, like the human aspect of, storytelling. I don't think AI will be able to replace it completely, because there's always something about human beings creating stories and telling stories that is so unique that you cannot fake it. But for the rest of the society, it's terrible, and you're right.
And the voice will go first.
Yeah.
I was doing ADR for a film the other day, and the director they normally get someone in the editing suite to put a line in if they want to change a line. And so it's very clearly not your voice. And he said, "Do you want to hear what the AI did?" And I said, "Yeah." And he played it, and I said, "Which line was it?" I did not even recognize the difference between the AI read of my voice and the line that I would have done, because they had enough information with the movie. And so anyone who has uploaded anything onto any social media platform can be replicated. So I think I think with my kids is I now want to have a safe word with them, so that if I get a call that's imitating their voices, that you need to know how you can recognize one another. I mean, it is something we really need to take seriously.
Like what sort of safe word?
I'm not telling you my safe word.
Robot.
I need to know that safe word too. But anyway, that's my time. Y'all were delightful. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on the questions that I asked and for giving me your time today. It is so much appreciated. And congratulations on the film.
Thank you.
Thank
Glad
you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello. Hey there.
Well, hello. Hi, gentlemen. How you doing today? You good?
Yeah,
we're
we're doing
good.
great.
Yeah.
Wonderful to see you.
It's wonderful to be seen and wonderful to see you as well. So let me just say, in the best way possible, this film was crazy as hell.
Thank you. Well, I thank you in the best way possible. Yeah.
It was crazy. But what I'd really like to know is the giant brain supposed to be the physical manifestation of AI?
No, that's a good question.
It's not supposed to be that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we never with an image, an ambiguous image or surreal image like that, we don't talk about what it's.
We never once talked about what it
we didn't
meant
ever
in the
talk
room.
about it.
Someone just said, "Let's put a giant brain in."
Yeah, the things we talk about are more like how big should it be?
Yeah.
Like what exact color should it be? Should it be pale or gray? Like the human brain is gray, should it be, but we need it to look a little pink so it looks more, because a brain wouldn't look like a brain on screen. You know, a giant brain, and you know, how tall will the actor be next to it? Very practical things. And these discussions are often to avoid having to discuss what it means, because it's just one of those things where you don't want to chase your imagination away and pin it down and put a meaning on it.
It just felt right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good metaphor for a lot of things.
But yes, I mean, there are things in the movie that we wanted it to resonate with, and AI would be one of them for sure.
Yeah, because I was like, I wonder if that's the physical manifestation of AI. I'm like, oh, I get to talk to them. Great, I can ask them.
Well, I think that's a good reading.
Yes. Well, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. I also am curious about the historical aspect regarding the mummification of the person. Was that a real thing, or was it just like a fantastic figment of
No, those are real. They're bog people that are they found them usually in Denmark and northern Germany and Ireland. They find these 2,000-year-old bodies that have been perfectly preserved in the acidic water of a bog. So when they're discovered, initially, you know, the people farmers who discover them think, oh, it's a murder victim from like 2 weeks ago. But no, it's someone from 2,000 years ago, and the acid in the bog preserves their bodies, so they still have their like fingerprints, and they're just like detailed humans that are just sort of, you know, wearing 2,000-year-old clothing found in a bog.
They're really intriguing. Yeah. And it's theorized that they were tribal leaders, like G7 leaders. So they're kind of a mirror. It's like a mirror stuck exactly 1,000 years ago, where they can reflect each other, the G7 leaders and the old bog mummies.
That was fascinating to me. Thank you for that bit of information and history, because I was not aware of that. That was really fascinating to me. And the film feels like is very timely politically right now on a global scale. So what made you approach Rumors from a G7 point of view, and why place it in the horror genre?
Oh, it's a good question. Why did we approach? Well, the G7 was, it's going to be timely. I think it feels like there's always going to be politicians we're annoyed at not doing enough to solve the major problems of the world. Every year they convene, and every year it's frustrating and funny to watch them stumble around and have dinner together, not doing anything or failing to, or trying. Some of them maybe are trying with good open hearts to, but I don't think so. So I think the timeliness is just I think what that appealed to us is that I was like, ooh, this looks timely, but it's timeless. Like we can play around with universal archetypes of so-called human nature and you know, things like that, even though it's going to look up to the minute. And I don't know why we initially settled on them, except that we watched G7 summit coverage every year, and we found it funny, and we were together writing, and we thought, oh, look at them, they're like us.
I could watch news footage of G7 leaders and their spouses intermingling in some chateau on YouTube for hours on end, just like the Yule log channel, you know. So we knew there was something profoundly visually pleasing about just watching these goofballs mingle.
I love that. You guys are super creative, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you about this. I got to ask all of the questions I wanted to, so thank you.
Brilliant.
I love your purple. I love your purple.
It's a jumpsuit.
Yeah, in the background, that's all very well.
Courtesy of Rihanna.
The mise en scène over there is great.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. Thank y'all. Mwah.
Thank you.
What I really want to know from each one of you, I noticed that quite a few of the scenes are shot in the dark, in the forest. For each of you, I'd like to know what was the most hysterical night you had shooting, and what was the most challenging night you had shooting. And we'll start with ladies first, with Nikki.
The first time we saw the brain was, you know, a sight to behold, even though we had to shoot some very serious scenes. I remember one really tough scene. Actually, it was Roy's scene, but it was the first time we were working with water, and we were by the pier, and it was like one of the coldest nights. It's one of those nights where you're like, oh gosh, what am I doing here? You know, we were all really shaking, but it kind of really helped with, you know, creating the atmosphere. We were all literally lost in the woods for many, many nights on end.
I don't know. I couldn't have done it. I would have been like, I am so sorry. Black people do not like the cold. I need a blanket, a heater, or something. Like, I need y'all to
They
work.
did keep us very warm. We had hot water bottles under our
I was
costumes.
like, I need y'all to work with a sister. How about you, Roy?
For me, well, I pretty much agree with Nikki. The whole thing was crazy. Just shooting. We had like almost 20 days at night. None of us, with all the experience you have on set, none of us have done so much long shooting at night. And for the most demanding thing for me was the monologue at the end. It was closing the movie. It was very intense and wild, and it felt like I was speaking for all those great actors that were joining me on the balcony. So it was one of the most demanding things I had to do in my career, actually.
That was a great monologue. It said so many things, and it's so time for what we're dealing with right now. It was great. Kudos.
Yeah, and also it was like very well written, so I wanted to respect it well, and yeah. So
you did a great job. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Yeah. All right. Because we were wrapped in tinfoil, something that looked like tinfoil.
I know. That must have been challenging, the crinkling of the tinfoil.
Yeah.
No, I didn't care about that. That was okay.
Roy kept it together. It was amazing.
The
other thing was also we shot down the first week also, at the end of the first week.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Of shooting. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Rolando, bring up the rear.
Except the movie that is the strangest movie I have shot in my life. The most difficult night I have passed on set is a night where I improvise a line and Roy began to ridere, come si dice? To laugh very much. And for me, it was impossible to continue. How many hours?
Well,
and
it was
line is not in the movie.
It was a very funny improvisation. Actually, it was one of my favorite lines in the movie.
You got to tell me what the line is now.
It's not there anymore. I don't know why, actually, but
maybe because y'all got the giggles.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Basically, everything Rolando said in character was hilarious. He would just, have one-liners and time them so beautifully. It was hard to keep a straight face.
No problem. Well, y'all, that is my time. It went so very quickly. Thank you so much for your artistry and for sharing it in this film. It was bananas, but I was there for every single solitary moment of it. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate you.
Oh, grazie.
Thanks to you.
Bye.
Bye.
So you guys, Rumors is going to be in theaters on October 11th. It is a Bleecker Street Studios joint, and it stars Cate Blanchett. Let me just give a shout out to all of the people that allowed me to interview them. Cate Blanchett, Denis Menachet, Guy Madden, Evan Johnson, Galen Johnson, and Nikki Amuka Bird, Rolando Revello. And thank you guys so much for allowing me to talk to you. All right. So I know y'all have been waiting patiently for me to get into this Joker, and I got some things to say. So let me just say this first and foremost. When I saw Joker in 2019, it was right before the pandemic hit. And I saw it at the Toronto International Film Festival. It got so much hell because it was so violent back in 2019 that a lot of people were like, oh, this isn't great for kids, la, 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 la. But it didn't stop the film from letting Joaquin Phoenix grab a Best Actor Oscar the following year in 2020 for his role as Joker. And it made $1 billion. The first one made $1 billion. So I just want to preface it with that. Now Joker is back. Todd Phillips is also at the helm this time. He's co-written it with some other folks. It's starring Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phillips. Joaquin Phoenix is reprising his role as Joker. Let me just say this. First of all, it's a musical. It is not a dramatic feature film. It is a musical. There are musical numbers. There are some songs. There's a lot of classic songs. There's a lot of classic jazz songs. There's a lot of contemporary songs that they have taken and done different arrangements to them to suit them to Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix. This film is a perfect example of why people don't like musicals. I love musicals. I've been on Broadway in musicals. Y'all know how I feel about musicals. I love musicals. The musical numbers in this film, to me, kind of pop up out of nowhere, which is now I understand why people hate musicals. Because when I asked them why they hate them, they said, it just seems like the song comes out of nowhere. I never thought of musicals that way until I saw Joker, Folie, Deux. Just saying. All right, so there's that. I feel like Lady Gaga's character of Harley her talent was wasted. She is so much more talented and has so much more to give to the cinematic landscape than what she was allowed to give in this film. The focus on this film is on Joker. There's some Easter egg things going on with some people and characters from the first film that come into the courtroom for this film. I won't tell you who they are. You'll see it when you see it. But it kind of the film picks up where it left off. We now see Joker get arrested for the crimes that he committed in the first film, and now he's going on trial. There's a little bit of violence in this one. It's not as overt as it was in the first version of it. And the cinematography in this film is insane. It's so gorgeous and beautiful to watch. But I have to tell y'all, I was not in love with this version of the film. I just was not. I mean, it just kind of felt all over the place to me. But what didn't feel all over the place was Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix is crushing it yet again as Joker. He is a fabulous actor. And to me, there's nothing that he can't inhabit. And the crazier, the better. I love seeing him go there. But more importantly, the film also, in addition to giving us musical numbers, in addition to that, it also makes a really strong case for why we should pay more attention to people with mental illness. Because it may, we have a tendency to go, oh, that person's crazy, or they are out of their mind. Sometimes these people really are crazy, and sometimes they are really out of their mind, and we need to pay more attention to it. And I think the film really does a great job of bringing that to the surface, and it did it in the first one too. But more than anything, it shows that Joker is having a really hard time of this duality of being Arthur Fleck and being Joker. He's having a really hard time keeping them separate, and at some point toward the end of the movie, they just kind of meld into one person. So that's what I have to say about Joker, Folie, Deux. I was not a fan, and y'all know it pains me to say that. I was not a fan. Not a fan of this film at all, but I was a fan of the performances. I love some of the musical numbers. They even had this one musical number that reminds me like the Sonny and Cher show, and it's called Joker and Harley. It was kind of funny, actually, but that's all I have to say about that. So again, Joker, Folie, Deux with Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix is in theaters right now. If you'd like to see it, it is produced by Warner Brothers and is co-written and directed by Todd Phillips. Rumors is going to be in theaters on October 11th. It is a sci-fi horror look at the G7 summit. Hold Your Breath is on Hulu. You want to check that one out. Saturday Night is coming to theaters courtesy of Sony Pictures. Will and Harper is on Netflix. Apartment 7A is on Paramount Plus. And Lonely Planet is coming to Netflix on October 11th. I think those are all the films that I talked about. And then, yes. And so in the coming weeks, when I come back, I am going to be talking about a film called Caddo Lake. I'll be talking about Memoir of a Snail. I'll be talking about The Apprentice. I'll be talking about Woman of the Hour with Miss Anna Kendrick and a couple of more films. But yeah, you guys, thank you so much for joining me again for another live episode of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. If this is your first time joining me, give me a big thumbs up to let me know you're here. Click that bell for notifications. Oh, I got shadows going on. Why do I have a shadow? Let's see. Okay. Click the bell for notifications to let me know you are here. If you're streaming this on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or any other platform, say hi to your girl. Say what's up. Let me know. And yeah, and I'm really glad that y'all join me, whether you're here in real time or not. So that's gonna do it for me and this episode of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. I may or may not be here next week. I am attending a wedding, and so I may not be able to stream in peace. If that is the case, I will put something up to let you know that, and I will also make sure that you can go to my social media page, to my website, The Curvy Critic with Carla Renata, to see all of the reviews in written form. I write up all of the reviews in written form that I talk about on these podcasts. They're always there. So you can take a little screenshot of that or go to thecurvyfilmcritic.com and read what I have to write. Some of the reviews, like for Saturday night, are over on the Wrap website because I did review that for the Wrap. And yeah, there's that. Let me just turn that off and hit this one last comment before I go. Sav said, AI seems like a lazy way out to me. You know, AI is just technology. It's just another form of technology that we are going to have to learn how to embrace. Unfortunately, I'm not happy about it, but it just seems like, you know, we're probably going to have to embrace it and figure out some laws to protect people's voices and images. That's all. That's what we're going to have to do. But yeah, y'all. So until the next time, love, peace, and hair grease. And I'll see you when I see you. Bye. Why is my outro ain't trying to play? Okay.